So in this module, we went through and took a look at the 5 different phases that an attacker goes through. He first starts off with doing some recon. Again, remember, there's both active and passive versions of reconning. Our purpose, again, at this phase is to gather as much information as possible without being detected. We then go through and start scanning, trying to discover. This gets a little, scanning has a tendency of being a little bit more active instead of passive, but there are passive mechanisms. But our purpose here is to try to map out, identify your network. We then go through and try to gain access to those targets, or to at least a target. Once we've gained access, our next job is to go through and maintain access. Again, typically an attacker will go through, harden up the system so that nobody else can get into it, doesn't want to waste his hard work. Plus, also, I want to make it easier for myself the next time I need to get into this machine. And then finally, we talked about clearing our tracks, cleaning up after ourselves, making sure that nobody can see that we were in. We don't want people, after all that hard work that we went through, we want to make sure that nobody detects it, reimages the machine, or patches it, or whatever. I don't want them to see that. And again, going back to that recon and scanning phase, before I pick my target that I'm going to use, I'm going to make sure it's a machine that is probably not looked at too closely. For example, I'm not going to necessarily hit a server up as my target initially. My first machine into your network is going to be something like, a great example would be maybe it's a computer system that handles your phone systems. Had a company that they had a computer that maintained their logs for their salesmen, their outbound calls, their inbound calls, how many calls they were making each day so they could hold their salespeople accountable. Well, guess what? This program that they were using was so old that it was still running on Windows XP. That was only running Service Pack 1 because Service Pack 2 had some issues with this application. And you'll never guess what we found on that box. So now that you understand our different hacking phases, next up we're going to go through and talk about the attack types.